Shabbat Shalom. A week ago today, we gathered in synagogue and we read in our sacred Torah about the birth and bris of one of our patriarchs, Isaac. We recalled an ancient tradition that evokes power and faith in the most meaningful of ways. Hundreds of miles away, without any of us knowing it, a bris on the 8th day of a Jewish baby's life was taking place. And simultaneously, in that sacred building, there was a tragedy of epic proportions. Over the past several days, funerals, another step on the life cycle of our people, have occurred, with the same reverence offered, but with tears of sorrow, not tears of joy. Today, we come together to celebrate a bar mitzvah. And as you have learned from Adam's wisdom, people whom we love are sometimes gone in an instant. And so we must feel and display gratitude. Hey, Jonah. So what is it that we, as a Jewish community, can be grateful for this week? A week in which our people were killed. On one hand, it might feel like very little. Instead of focusing on what extraordinary programs we can offer and what classes we should have and what rituals we should create, conversations this week in the Jewish world have been about security and preparedness and about anti-Semitism. And yet there were moments this week that I was grateful for. And though I would give anything for last week not to have taken place this morning, in the context of our Parsha Chayeh, I would like to focus on 3 of those things. I want to focus on who were killed, I want to focus on the communal response, and I want to focus on the baby that was having the bris. As mentioned, this week's Parsha is about the death of Sarah, but it is called Chayeh Sarah, the life of Sarah. As Harold Alper taught us during last year's Men's Club Shabbat, when one speaks about the death of someone, the true test of a person is actually what people say about their life. In thinking about the 11 people that were murdered in Shul, it was they and their lives and their values that we must reflect on so that their murders weren't in vain. Rabbi Adam Greenwald wrote, "How incredible is our community, that when 11 of our members are killed, the whole Jewish world stops. Stops like the world has stopped turning, and mourns not just with thoughts and prayers, but really mourns. For people we have never met, but we recognize in our guts and our bones our family. And not just the Jewish world, but our interfaith sisters and brothers as well, who showed up to the thousands of vigils, who leave flowers at synagogue gates, who cry and rage and sit with us. It's just remarkable." And in particular, Rabbi Greenwald wrote, "I can't help but dwell on the fact that these 11 were mostly from groups that are so often are treated as invisible. The very old, the intellectually disabled, the early shul goers who sit in the back, who form the beloved but cantankerous backdrop of every shul in America, who object when the rabbi changes the tunes and don't have their names on the walls. But these people, often at the margins, are the ones who bring our shul together." The second set of lives we must reflect on are the lives of the living, the survivors, the clergy that were in the building, the other people, the police, the medical professionals that helped. Then we must think about the greater Pittsburgh community and how they came together. the political leadership and the sports teams, the religious organizations, the Muslim community that raised $120,000 in 48 hours to offset the funeral expenses for the family. Then we must think about those in our community and how we responded, how our interfaith community responded. Dov Ben Shimon, the CEO of the Metro West Federation, wrote the following reflection this week when thinking about the community. I spent a significant amount of time today talking with representatives of national Jewish organizations about security issues. We talked about how we are now looking at the end of the age of innocence for American Jewish life in many respects, and how this must be a sustained effort. He wrote, on my way to the briefings, my Uber driver was Emil, a Haitian. He came to the U.S. as an immigrant many years ago, but his family had received food and medicine from the Israeli field hospital that had been paid for and funded by emergency funds from our Jewish federations. When he heard me on a phone call talking about Pittsburgh and the attack, he told me how he and his children had cried when they heard about the attack. And when he dropped me off, he gave me a hug goodbye. When I left my briefings, Dov wrote, my driver's name was Tariq, and he was Syrian. And he asked me if I'd heard the news. Yes, I said, I'm Jewish. It's heartbreaking, and it's awful. And I told him about Emil, because we had a long conversation in the Manhattan traffic. Get out of the car, he said, as we stopped at the light at Lexington and 50th. I'm sorry, I said. Come on, get out. He said, somewhat nervously, I got out of the car, and he got out too, and he gave me a hug. And then we got back in his car and drove to New Jersey. At the end of Chayeh Sarah, Isaac and Ishmael, brothers lost because of conflict, come together to bury their father Abraham. This week we saw people who might disagree on many things come together to try to mourn together. But maybe we can come together not just for mourning. Maybe we can come together for living. And that brings me to the final reflection, that of the baby who is having his bris. Zev Steinberg wrote the following poem this week. In it, his use of Hebrew is profound, as we see how the name we might be given can give us motivation for our role in the world. He wrote, what is your name? What is your name? Little boy, what's your name? Do you have one? Sweet baby, just 8 days, what should we call you? I've heard the sacred circumcision postponed for jaundiced yellow, but never before for bloodshed red. Is your name Shalom? We long for peace in this troubled world. I hope you are Shalom. Is your name Nahum? Oh, how we need to be comforted in our grief. I hope you are Nahum. Is your name Raphael? Our broken hearts and bleeding souls need healing. I hope you are Raphael. You should have been carried high into the congregation on Shabbat morning, passed from loving hands to loving hands, on cushioned pillows to receive your Jewish name. Instead, your elders fell and were carried out in stretchers, in plastic bags, their names on tags. Is your name Moshe? Our unbearable anguish and rage demands justice. I hope you are Moshe. Is your name Ariel? We need the ferocious strength of lions to protect our people. I hope you are Ariel. Is your name Barak? We need courageous warriors to vanquish our enemies. I hope you are Barak. The blood on Shabbat morning was supposed to be covenantal, not sacrilegious. Sacramental, not sacrificial. Sacred, not unholy. The tears were supposed to be one of boundless joy, not bottomless sorrow. The cries were supposed to be Mazel Tov, not the mourner's Kaddish. Is your name Simcha? We need to end our sadness by bringing joy into the world. I hope you are Simcha. Is your name Yaron? We need an end to mourning by bringing song into our lives. I hope you are Yaron. Is your name Matan? We need the gift of children who will bring a better tomorrow. I hope you are Matan. So little boy, what is your name? Take them all, if you will. Take 1,000 names. Be peace and comfort and healing. Be justice and strength and courage. Be joy and song and a gift to the world. Be every good name and every good thing. And sweet baby, take one more name, if you will. Because I hope you'll be blessed with a long and blissful and beautiful life. I hope you are Chayeh. I hope that you are life. So here is what I am grateful for. I am grateful for all of you who come here to Sutton Place Synagogue day in and day out, week in and week out, making sure that we are able to pray. You know who you are. Making sure that we can celebrate each life cycle events, the brisses and the namings, the bar and bat mitzvahs, and the ufrafs. For your presence each day, each week, allows everybody in our community to thrive. I am grateful for the larger community, for those that shed tears with us, for those that showed up, for those that wanted to do something. And I am grateful for life. I don't take my role lightly here. I cannot imagine what the rabbi in Pittsburgh is feeling right now, being the only survivor in that room. God willing, I will never need to know. But I am grateful for our lives, that we can live and breathe, that we can walk around, that we can love and hope and dream, and that we can cry and we can celebrate. And so on this week of Parshat Chayeh Sarah, the Parsha where we see death and life, love and loss, I am grateful for being Jewish, because it is my faith and my community that provides the framework how to understand the incomprehensible. May we all know better days ahead. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.